Hi, I'm Annie with Miserable Cow Coaching. Contact information is in the description. Today I'm going to talk about processing play last a little bit more. I did talk about this recently, but I've had some further thoughts on it and some epiphanies. It seems like last animals are the most difficult to understand, like the most difficult to process in ourselves, and also the most difficult to understand someone else's last animal if it's different from yours. I've talked to some lead play people recently who sort of gave me the impression they just kind of didn't get play last. It's hard to get it, I think, if you're a lead play. That's a hard one to understand. And for me, it's hard to understand consume last. That's one I have a hard time conceptualizing or, understanding what that feels like to be consumed last. For me, that last animal, the play, there's just these really hard barriers where like I can kind of do it or simulate it, but then there's just a wall and it's like, I just can't do it. So recently I was talking to Gray of Augmented Personality, and I was telling her about this play last struggle that I have. And I was describing a play last scenario that's difficult for me. So I'm longing for really deep, connected, intellectual conversations with people one-on-one. That is my ideal social interaction. And whenever I schedule these social interactions with people, I do feel like I'm sacrificing the time that I would be completely alone in my consume and sleep, which I am addicted to. I spend most of my time in a deep inner world of SI-FI sleep. And I do get a little cranky when that's interrupted. It's like I'm constantly in a reverie, and interacting with the outside world kind of interrupts that. So I feel a little stingy about my time and exerting that play energy, especially when that play energy isn't what I thought it might be. It doesn't lead to a deep, connected, one-on-one intellectual conversation, and so it just doesn't feel that appealing to me, really. Here's a scenario. I reach out to have a coffee date with a friend, and I have this kind of vision of what I want the experience to feel like. So for example, if I'm meeting a friend who's an artist focused on a specific medium in art, I might remember I read an article about a really cool technique in that medium, and I know she would love to hear about that. So I'll go back and reread the article, and I'll be sure to bring the article with me to the meeting or bring the link, and I'll mention this article to her because I know she'll really appreciate it and it will lead to a stimulating dialogue. And I was describing this to Gray, and she said something like, "Wow, that is a lot of consume and sleep." So what I'm doing there is not even play. It's just all this consume and sleep processing preparation for this meeting that I'm going to have that hasn't even happened yet and isn't happening right now. And that was kind of an epiphany for me because I was like, wow, I never thought about it that way. And I never noticed that I was doing that. I never made the connection that all that preparation and expectation and pressure on the encounter is not play. It doesn't belong in that scenario if the goal is to exercise play energy. So I think I'm kind of understanding what play is now, and let me know what you think, because maybe I'm getting it wrong. But it seems like sort of low expectation, low commitment, like playful sharing, just a playful back and forth where there's no real agenda and no expectation. It sort of happens in the moment. It's just this intuitive responding in the moment. There's not like a lot of sleep processing and organizing building up to that interaction. It's just happening immediately. So I've been bringing a pretty heavy agenda and expectation to my social encounters, and I've been really missing the entire point of play. And then if I have this coffee date with someone and they don't show up or they cancel last minute, I'm really disappointed because I'm already invested and I have this deep longing for connected intellectual conversation, and I'm almost gonna get it, and I really thought it was gonna happen. And then when they cancel, I'm just deflated. I genuinely feel a sense of loss that connection isn't gonna happen. So before I got into objective personality, I knew there was something different about me. Before I had words for play last, I sort of had identified that there's something going on there. That when I learned OPS, I found the words for it. Oh, that's play last. That's that thing that I've been noticing in myself that I've been trying to process and understand and, grow through. I noticed that casual socializing was something that I did way, way less than other people. And because I'm naturally resistant to it, or there's some kind of block there, I identified that as an area of growth. So I pushed myself to socialize more just as an experiment. First, I told myself for 5 or 6 years that I needed to do that, and I didn't do it. And then I finally did push myself and actually do it. So I joined a local running group. That was the activity that I chose to push myself in this more social direction. So I would meet up at the local running store each Saturday, and then we would go on a long run from there. And it was great because I never knew who would be there. I wasn't relying on a specific person to show up. And likewise, if I couldn't show up or just really wasn't up for it, it didn't matter. No one was expecting me. A really low pressure, low agenda social meetup. So we'd meet at the store, and then before heading out, we'd sort of organize ourselves by pace. And so we would identify, this is going to be the 8:30 mile pace, and then here's the 9-minute pace. And then there's this group that wants to go much slower at a 10-minute pace. And then there was a group of people that really preferred to just walk. So for long runs, I would find myself in this 9-minute group. And, there were a lot of repeating regular people that were running at that pace, women of my same, women in my same athletic category that were doing those 9-minute long runs. And then there would also be, new people sometimes. And then it was just mixed every time. So I got exposed to a lot of different people. And I was describing that to Gray. And as I was describing it, I was like, oh my God, that is play. That's what play is. It's this just low expectation social interaction. It's not super deep. It's just a social exchange that's fun and light and not particularly planned or organized. And it also had this really energy dom vibe to it because we're getting together and we're doing something. We're energetic. We're, actually exercising. Chemicals are moving. It's an active thing. It's not about deep one-on-one intellectual conversations. And it didn't really fulfill my need for those deep conversations either. So I was doing the play, I was making progress, I was doing what I said I was going to do, push myself to socialize with others. But it still felt kind of lacking because it didn't necessarily increase the number of times that I had deep connections with people. Although, after participating in that group for 2 or 3 years, I encountered hundreds of people, and 1 or 2 of those became people that I eventually did have deeper connections with. Ultimately, I stopped going to the group, and that was partially because of the pandemic, but it's partially because while I'm running and exercising, I really do prefer to be alone in that deep FISI sleep. I just get so much out of that. Exercise is like a meditation for me, and I feel sort of interrupted if I'm with other people. And back then I thought, that's okay. I did that for 3 years. That's fine. I did the socializing. I did the extroversion. It wasn't really for me. And then I just slipped back into that deep, sleep processing, meditative exercise alone. But I'm starting to see it differently now. I'm identifying that that is the kind of play that I should do. And I don't have to do it all the time as much as a lead play would do it. But I think it would be good to set some goals for myself to do something like that maybe twice a month. Just set sort of a low expectation goal and make myself do that twice a month. And we're having a good moment in my state right now in terms of coronavirus risk, and I think we're going to have a few good months. The mask mandates are lifted, and then certainly running outdoors, you don't need to wear a mask with people. And so it's a really good time for me to push myself and do some of that play again. Because the thing is, when I meet, 100 people, 1 or 2 of those people are going to lead to deeper connections or, collaborations or maybe a good business connection. And I kind of feel like it's valuable to pay those social play coins into the tribe. Just pay them in every once in a while, because then also every once in a while you get back deeper connections from that interaction. Another thing that has sometimes baffled me about play is that it seems like sometimes people throw out ideas and suggestions that are really exciting, but then it seems like they don't actually take those suggestions and ideas very seriously. So a while ago, a coach colleague of mine said, "Hey, would you come and talk on this panel about habits and self-discipline as it relates to entrepreneurship?" And I said, "Yes, absolutely, I'm there." And she said, "Okay, I will email you the information." And then I never heard anything more about it. And it's that kind of thing. several things like that have happened over the last year and throughout my life, where people are playfully throwing out these good ideas and suggestions and like, do you want to do this collaboration with me? And I'll say, yes, absolutely. I will do that with you if it feels right, if it feels like a good match. And then I don't hear anything about it again. And I almost feel like to them, they're just doing play energy. They're just throwing shit out there. And I think that maybe chemically play feels so good to them that it feels good to share. Like, throw out this idea. What do you think? This back and forth, that the chemical hit of doing that kind of play is really, really strong for them. But then maybe the organizing and the actually making it happen and the planning of it just isn't a big chemical hit. And so they forget about it or don't want to follow up. But for me, like, I'm really serious. When I say I'm going to do something, I do it. I really mean it. I don't say I'm going to do something if I'm not going to do it. And so I was really baffled by this and just seeing this pattern repeat over and over. Recently, I met someone who is my exact same type twin. So we're actually working on some collaborations together. And she asked me, hey, will you do this thing with me? And I say, yes, I will do it. And then I do it. And then she says, okay, that's great. Thank you so much for doing that. Here is the feedback on the project that we are doing together. And there's this like back and forth. And we have another collaboration that we're working on too. And it's just delightfully refreshing. I can't expect everyone to be like that because maybe not everyone is. And I have to accept that. But I have to say it is delightfully refreshing to have this interaction with her, to talk about these collaborations and then actually do them and take the steps to make them happen. It's been really cool. I feel like I've found a kindred spirit. But I'm going to keep pushing myself to do the play. And I think, like I said, it's a great time moving into spring and summer, hopefully a low COVID risk. Hopefully more things are open, mask-free, more social interactions. And I think that that's a really good goal for me, to set a minimum of once or twice a month doing something like that, because it's probably good for me and my development and growth.